What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Mind Muscle Experience YouTube channel. My name is Tyler Egan, and in today's video, we're going to be discussing the anatomy of masculine and feminine energies. Before we dive too into that though, if you enjoyed today's video, if you like the content that we share and you'd like to see more of it, please like, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Like the video, comment on the video, and subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content like this. We have an assortment of content on the channel already covering the various aspects of holistic wellness, and there's so much more to come down the pipeline. With that out of the way, let's dive into this. Cheers, y'all. Okay, so let's start from the top. And I mean that quite literally here, because we're going to start with the human brain. And we're going to talk about the human mind. So the mind is the brain in action. Actually, let me take one step back. For anybody who may be new to the ideas of the masculine and feminine energies, I want to preface this in the beginning. When I say masculine energy and feminine energy, I do not mean male and female. Okay, I do not mean that masculine energy is only for boys and men, and feminine energy is only for male or females and women. There's a cohesion that needs to exist within an individual's soul for you to find freedom within yourself and to find liberation. We all have masculine and feminine energies within us. It's about finding the harmony and balance between those two within us. And that varies depending on each individual person. So I just wanted to preface that in the beginning. Masculine energy is more focused on action taking, goal setting, leadership, things of that. And I'm not saying a woman cannot be a leader, right? It's just a quality that one embodies. And then feminine energy is when one embodies more of the qualities of nurturing, compassion, empathy, emotional attunement, caring, kindness, things of that effect. Again, a man can be very empathetic and emotionally in tune, right? So it's not about male, female. This is to focus on these specific qualities and the anatomical structures that align with the, not just anatomical structures, but we're also going to talk about chemicals in the human body that align with masculine and feminine energies respectively. So with that out of the way, again, masculine and feminine are more qualities that one embodies, and which chemicals and structures within the body align with those energies, and they are not focused on male or female. Okay, so again, starting from the quite literal top, we are talking about the human brain and the mind. The mind is the brain in action, right? So the mind in and of itself is a masculine-oriented structure. The mind, thinking, is an action, right? The mind is responsible for goal setting, planning, organization, right? Even if a woman's, when a woman plans her wedding, that is a masculine action, right? So the mind is a masculine-oriented structure, but even when we break that down a little bit, you'll see within the masculine structure, there is a harmony between the masculine and feminine. We'll dive into that when we talk about the left and right hemispheres of the brain. So the mind is a masculine-oriented structure. It is responsible for, again, goal setting, action planning, organization, right? Things of that sort. And then we have the body. The body is more feminine in nature. It is responsible for the physical sensations we feel, our emotions, right? And our experiences in the world, which we receive. It is very receptive, right? So now let's talk about the brain and dive into that a little bit more. When we talk about the brain, we have the left and the right hemisphere of the brain. The left brain, the left hemisphere of the brain, is responsible, interestingly enough, for the right side of your body. And let me just emphasize this too. If you're left, this is generally speaking, because generally speaking, most people are right-handed, but left-handed people, their brain hemispheres can be flip-flopped. So if you're left-handed, take that with a grain of salt, please. Or this with a grain of salt. Yours may be flip-flopped. But the left brain controls the right side of the body and is more masculine in orientation, in its structure, in the way it functions. It's responsible for the logic, rational side of our brain, structure and organization, whereas the right side of the brain is responsible for more creativity and intuition. And the right side of the brain controls the left side of the body. So again, you can see how these are coming together and coexisting with one another. The brain, masculine, has a left and right side being masculine, right side being feminine. So the structure in and of itself is masculine in orientation, but the left and right sides separate that down to masculine and feminine for a cohesive relationship between the two. We don't want the left brain being overly dominant where we're only logically thinking and we're ignoring our emotions. That's called suppression, right? We want the other way to be flip-flopped where we're overly emotional and we don't listen to logic and reason at all. We're just reacting to our emotions day in and day out, and it's not fun, right? So again, even within the mind, there's that. And then within the fact that the brain has each two hemispheres, and those two hemispheres are either masculine or feminine, they control the opposing part of the body. So then from that lens, we can say that the right side of the brain, which is feminine, controls the left side of the body, which could be the feminine side of the body. And then the left side of the brain, right, is more masculine. Logic, rationalization, structure controls the right side of the body. And so one of the reasons this can be so important to understand on your holistic wellness journey is balancing the masculine and feminine energies. Balancing those energies. If you're always being logical and you're never feeling into what your body is experiencing, maybe you need to lean into your feminine side a little bit more. Maybe on the flip side of that, though, you're feeling all your shit all day long and you don't listen to logic and reason at all. Maybe you need to lean into your logical side a little bit. And so when we can start to pinpoint our own behaviors, we can start to recognize, well, maybe I'm leaning too far into the masculine, not enough into the feminine, or vice versa. Right, so now let's break that down a little bit more, because then we have, right, we talked about the brain, we talked about the body, we talked about how the right side of the brain connects to the left side of the body and vice versa. Well, how do the brain and body even communicate? Well, that's where the nervous system comes into play. Right, the nervous system, the central nervous system, is comprised of the brain and the spinal cord. Now, the bones of your spine just protect the spinal cord. The spinal cord is how our brain communicates with the rest of the body. Okay, so within that structure, we have the ANS, the autonomic nervous system, which regulates involuntary function. Think like your heart rate, digestion, things of that effect, breathing, things that you don't necessarily stop to think about. You don't eat a sandwich and you're like, okay, body, digest the sandwich. It happens on its own, right? So within the autonomic nervous system, the part that controls involuntary function, there is the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system, right? And now this we can segment down into masculine and feminine. The parasympathetic is responsible for rest and digest. That's what they call it, the rest and digest part of the nervous system. It is responsible for rest, recovery, and healing. Right? This promotes down regulation in the nervous system, so we relax, we calm down. Right? We're not stressed out, we're easing into the night and chilling out. When we feel relaxed, the parasympathetic nervous system is online and active. And this is more feminine in nature. Again, rest and digest, right? Rest, recovery, receptivity, healing, feminine oriented qualities. We have the sympathetic nervous system, on the other hand, which is the stress nervous system. It is the part of the nervous system that kicks on when our fight or flight response turns on. And this happens whether something outside of you pisses you off and stresses you out, or it happens naturally with the cycle of the day. In a perfect world, again, just to see the harmony within the nervous system, within the body, within the brain that unfolds, the natural ebb and flow of masculine and feminine energy that happens throughout our day. When we wake up in the morning, we wake up due to the fight or flight response system kicking on. And that is heightened by the blue light coming from the sun. Now, the technology we have also does the same thing. It can trigger that same fight or flight response system. Again, in a perfect world where we're all perfectly healthy, our stress hormones peak, they kick at their height, I'm gonna guess, I don't know off the top of my head, but at like noon, and then they start to slowly come down. So our stress levels peak at a certain point, early afternoon, let's just call it, and then they come down so that when the sun is setting, we see the spectrum of lights being emitted from the sun, and the red and purple lights in the sun setting, like that are emitting, signal to our brain to release melatonin, which is a hormone that puts us to sleep. More or less. I'm oversimplifying the hormone. So now what happens is our rest and digest nervous system kicks on, that parasympathetic, and it's like, okay, we're chilling, we're relaxing, we're recovering, and then bam, we're asleep. Right? So there's a natural harmony between those two parts of the autonomic nervous system. Again, the nervous system which connects the brain and the body. Right? So the masculine brain and the feminine body have a way of communicating, which has a masculine and feminine orientation, dividing the nervous system into two separate entities. Now, the nervous system is way more complex than I just made out to be, but just so you can see my point for a moment. Parasympathetic feminine, rest and digest. Sympathetic masculine, fight or flight, response, stress response system. Okay, so now even when we break it down a little bit further, now we're getting away from the anatomical structure and seeing just some of the interactions within the body, because we have these things called hormones and neurotransmitters. Now, I'm sure many of you are well aware of hormones because they're way more talked about, but neurotransmitters are essentially the hormones, the chemical reactions within the brain, more or less. So when we talk about hormones, I'm going to label these all together, but hormones and neurotransmitters, these chemical reactions that are occurring within the brain and body send specific types of signals to our brains and bodies for specific actions or for specific tasks that they have. And I'm going to break those down here in a moment, as well as tell you the orientation of whether they're masculine or feminine leaning. Some of them are quite obvious, right? When we look at like things like testosterone and estrogen, these are both hormones that are more predominant, testosterone being in men and estrogen being more in women, but we both have all of them and we both need an even balance. Now, that doesn't mean a 50-50 balance of these things, right? We don't need like 50% of our hormones to be testosterone and 50% to be estrogen. There is a very complex diversity of hormones balancing themselves throughout the day within each one of us in our own bio-individual way. What I mean is, you as a bio-individual human being need X amount of testosterone and X amount of estrogen. What that looks like for you is beyond the scope of this video. And so testosterone, again, is more masculine leaning. It is responsible for our drive and our ambition, whatever that looks like for you, and your ability to take risks and how willing you are to take risks, right? And again, it's more predominant in men, but women have it too. Same thing with estrogen. Estrogen is responsible for a woman's empathy or a man's empathy. It allows for us to be emotionally attuned to one another. Again, while it's higher in women, men have it too, and there needs to be a cohesive relationship between these two predominant hormones, but there are so many more. Moving down the list though, we have things like dopamine, which is a neurotransmitter. Now, most people know it as like the reward chemical, but it is actually released when we are anticipating the reward. Therefore, the chemical in and of itself being released in the brain is responsible for things like motivation and reward, because it actually motivates us to take the action in pursuit of the reward. Whether we actually get the reward or not doesn't really necessarily matter, because again, it is released in anticipation. Because it's responsible for motivation, it is more masculine oriented in its nature, right? Because it's motivating us to take action. Moving down the list a little bit more though, we have oxytocin, which is a neurotransmitter and, interestingly enough, a hormone. And it's that people often look at it as like the love hormone, but it's responsible for us bonding with one another. When we feel that bond, the receptors in our brain and body actually release oxytocin for that. Then that's why it can be considered the love hormone, because we feel that good sensation from the hormone being released or the neurotransmitter being released. So because of that, because of its ability to form bonds within us, it is more feminine in nature. Then we have serotonin, which is a hormone that is responsible for relaxation and peace, a peaceful sensation, a peaceful feeling. is, interestingly enough, the precursor to melatonin. In the body, serotonin converts into melatonin. Again, like I said earlier, melatonin puts us to sleep, right? So that promotion of relaxation and peace, leaning into the feminine more, leaning into the body more, right? Receptivity, rest, recovery. Then we have things like adrenaline and cortisol. These are the stress hormones that are released when we're under a lot of stress, or you have an injury of sorts, you're just like really amped up, right? These hormones are being released in the body. And because they're a part of the stress response system, they are more masculine in orientation. Then we have things like endorphins. These are our body's natural painkillers, right? And they are released in abundance at times when we are working out and things of that sort. And they cause us to not feel the pain anymore, right? It's pain reliever. So because of that, they promote relaxation as well, and they are more feminine in nature. Then we have a neurotransmitter called GABA. I'm gonna hope I can pronounce this right and say gamma aminobutyric acid. I'm pretty sure I nailed that. So GABA is also responsible for relaxation and promotes the reduction of stress. And for that, again, rest and digest, more receptive, more healing, leans into the feminine more. So you can start to see, like, while these neurotransmitters and hormones are great because endorphins are natural painkillers within the body that are released through certain various activities, right? Well, that sounds great because I'm in a lot of pain. But there needs to be a natural ebb and flow, a natural balance between those. Cortisol and stress aren't inherently bad. It's a natural part of life. It's a natural part of finding that balance. It's about being able to flow with the waves of the stress and the relaxation. Said differently, go with the ebbs and flows of the day. How do you handle stress as it arises through your day? How do you handle relaxation as it comes at night? Because your body naturally seeks that harmony. What disrupts that natural harmony is our everyday lives as they are. Maybe our nervous system is programmed to be dysregulated and be stressed the fuck out 24/7. And so you're leaning more towards the masculine side of things because your body's always stressed out. Again, it may be unconscious. You may not be intentionally doing it, but your body's always stressed out. You have restless nights sleeping. You're always thinking, leaning into logic more, things of that, suppressing emotions, things of that sort. And so you need to find ways to lean to the feminine more. Right? And just understanding the anatomy of it all can start to help us paint a picture of what's happening within the body. And when we learn new information about, like, oh, this food helps promote testosterone. Hey, I've been recognizing that I need to lean into my masculine energy more, so let me get that and try eating more of that food. So when we start to see how the anatomy of the body leans, certain structures, certain chemical processes, things of that sort, they start to lean in one direction, we can start to navigate the realms of health and wellness and start to see, like, what foods may be better for us during certain seasons of life and what activities may be better for certain seasons of life. Like, if you want to lean into your feminine energy more, get outside, take your shoes off, and dig your feet into Pachamama, Mother Earth, right? You're going to naturally ground yourself to the earth and connect with the divine feminine that Pachamama is. So I hope this video has helped you understand the anatomy of masculine and feminine energies more to balance your own. If you all took anything in this video, we'd really appreciate it if you could leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content like this. And I'll see you all in the next video. Peace out.